it's another episode of In the Den, but Hot Boy Spicy changed his voice and his name, and he's a different person. I mean, it's Vindy Bondo.
Hello, it's me. Not famed. Frequent collaborator of Craftsdorf, I guess.
Yes, long-time friend. No, yeah, it's been, but we've been... God, how long? When did I join the BSA, actually? Never mind, it's not important.
Like 2019, I think. Or 2018, I think, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, 6 years now.
Sheesh. All right. So yeah, anyway, so this one, you turned on to me, or you turned me on to it, or rather, that, you know what I, yeah.
Yeah.
Because this was not a plan, like, I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna do a podcast about it. It's like, this game has been eating you alive for months because it's very
been like
good
9
and
months
interesting. Now. And you mentioned it to me, and I hadn't heard about it before. And when you described it to me, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, and even so, like, okay, so basically, in case you haven't heard of Lies of P, it is it is not a From Soft game. It is not by the studio From Soft, but it's definitely very much inspired by Dark Souls and games of that like ilk. But it's also an adaptation of Pinocchio, and when I heard Pinocchio, like in my head, I just imagined like Pinocchio, Disney's Pinocchio, like dancing around being silly, and then fucking Artorias of the Abyss just fucking busts in with a great song. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be real, but it is. I literally like on the last day I played it, and I was finishing the game. There was a couple moments I stopped, and I'm just like, how the fuck is this real? Like I'm Pinocchio, this endgame shit is going on, but like it makes sense with the ideas of Pinocchio and the ideas the game's been building up so far, and it's like, how is this real and how is it this good? It doesn't. It's baffling. It's in the best way possible. It's great.
Yeah, it's a really impressive game, and I feel like I have not played a Souls-like that wasn't made by FromSoft. I feel like before that I liked. I've tried Neo, I couldn't get into it. I tried the first Surge, Lords of the Fallen, a couple others, and I just didn't like. I almost was convinced that no one except FromSoft could get it, and Lies of P changed my mind on that. Now I'm just convinced all those other guys didn't get it, but they fucking do. Like they get it so hard, it's crazy.
The only exception I've heard about is I have a friend of mine who really likes the Surge too, but I can't say anything. I haven't played it, and because if the first one wasn't that good, then people aren't going to jump on the second one. But this game is good because I remember literally starting it and just going around like I just with not even just like with specifically like FromSoft games, but just RPGs in general. I like just that routine of just going around, taking all the enemies like trainers in Pokemon or whatever, and picking up all the items. But the game specifically just gave me the vibes of like, yeah, this is I haven't played because I hadn't played I played Elden Ring in 2022, and I hadn't played anything else since. So it just gave me those vibes. I was like, yeah, I'm back, baby. It's Dark Souls time, baby. But it's like, it's not. It's Lies of P time. And it's just like, yeah, just immediately just the feeling of playing a FromSoft game was immediately very felt, and it was good. So yeah, we're gonna spoil it. I feel like I as far as recommendation goes, it's like. It's like, do you want another FromSoft game that's not made by From Software that's actually like really solid and good? Yes. If that's what you're looking for, check out Lies of P. It's going to get DLC and a sequel. So, I'm excited for those. But we're talking about this game.
I was going to say, I think the funny thing is you can kind of tell right away that it's, that like the game is, it gets it. Because something about it, like, especially if you play the other ones, which I know you hadn't, but like, just to kind of say, I feel like with Neo and Neo especially for me, and like I understand Neo's doing its own thing. I think I personally maybe just don't like it, but I do want to give the game another try. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it doesn't feel the same way that I think a FromSoft game does from like the minute you boot it up. Like there's just like like there's something in Neo where it's like your attacks are like. They don't stagger enemies as much, and enemies just like hit through you, and just something about the game doesn't feel the same. But like I swear to God, you start up Lies of P, and that shit feels like Dark Souls 3. Like it feels like Sekiro. Like your attacks are like about the right length of time. They do about as much damage as you want, is about as much stagger as you want. Like everything in the game, like numbers wise and like feeling wise, is exactly where you would want it. And so I think that, like, just first of all, it's like they understood, like, the moving your character around and doing hits feels perfect. Feels like it was just taken straight from, almost like a mod,
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I love the way you framed it, where it's like Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro had a baby, and then I threw in, it's like, and then Bloodborne adopted it.
Yeah.
Because that's like the aesthetic that it has, is that Victorian era style of just more, steampunkish kind of. But it's gameplay wise, like, I think like the weapon modification is cool, like, because like the handle chooses like how the weapon, what the moveset of the weapon is, and then the head chooses is more about its damage. So you can like get a knife handle and a greatsword hit head, and or do shit like that, and that it also affects like the scaling. So that was a fun system to play around with.
It is a fun system to play around with, but if I'm being honest, in my 2 playthroughs, the boss weapons are just too fucking cool.
They are, yeah, that's fair. Because I used I did use Victor's greatsword for a bit.
Is that the gold one?
That is, no, I don't. It was blue. It was from Champion Victor.
Oh, okay.
But mostly I used the fire knife. With I didn't like the knife's moveset, so I used like your basic sword handle. And then I liked the stun baton. I used that one quite a bit. And originally I was going to be like, oh, I'll use all the status weapons, but I really did not use the acid spear that much. And I got an acid greatsword like way late, like near the end of the game. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to upgrade this, because I already had the greatsword. I think, what did I beat the final boss with? I forget what I might have just looked up, because I struggled. The most I struggled with the game was definitely the final boss. It took me like less than 2 hours, but like yeah. But I think I it was like the police baton handle with the wrench helmet, or with the wrench head, and it scales really well with strength, I think. Or the motivity, or whatever this, it's strength. Shut up. So I don't know who I'm talking to. Because that's the thing about not even just like this game being a Souls derivative. It's also kind of true of the actual FromSoft games that aren't Dark Souls, because like when you're Bloodborne, like they're Blood Echoes or something. I just call them Souls, right? In this game, it's the fucking Ergo. I just call them Souls, right?
Well,
and
yeah, but you get that in so many games. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
I think everyone calls, like, if I meet someone that calls Gil in Final Fantasy Gil instead of Gold, like, you're a Fed, you're a cop. Yeah. Like, that happens in games all the time. In every platformer, it's fucking coins. I don't care that it's like only coins in Mario. Like,
yes, because because obviously the attributes, they have their own unique names because they're meant to tie to the fact that you're a puppet, right? Like,
it's that, and there's always like trademarking around certain.
Yeah.
So they have to kind of you want to come up with your own unique version of it, but like they all serve the same mechanical purpose.
Right. It's fucking strength and stamina and vitality, right? Like,
right.
This one affects your health, and
yeah.
this one, so it's just like, that's how I was thinking of it. So that's why I said strength, because it's just these terms are built into my body, and I'm not gonna like just easily, like, at least not in casual conversation, right? Like, if I was making like a build video, like, I wouldn't say strength, I'd say motivity, because I don't want there to be any confusion, right?
Right.
But for the sake of discussion, it's fucking strength. But yeah, I also read Pinocchio before playing the game, and I'm glad I did, because it like it references the gold coin, because there was like the whole part of the book where the fox and the cat trick Pinocchio into planting these his gold coins as seeds to make a gold coin tree, and it'd be like, yeah, you don't even have to work and you get way more money, and so they just dug it up later and stole his money basically, but it's like, oh, that's a whole thing of creating miracles, and it factors into the conflict with Fox and Cat too.
Yeah, and the cube is used for, because like you use it to get the items for the cube, which is used to buff the summon in the game.
Yes, right. Which of course the cube being Wish Stone, based on named from the Disney, like, when you wish upon a star. And then it's just I guess. Did you have a specific thing you wanted to talk about first? Because I've just been kind of going freeballing it.
I mean, we could talk about. I don't know. I mean, what was your? Is it best to just start with the story, you think, and talk about like what makes that super cool, or do you
Yeah,
want to
I
talk about
guess.
like fights and like the bosses a little bit?
I guess we're kind of mostly talking about gameplay, so let's start on the just the gameplay, I guess, at first, because it is, I feel like that's as you're playing a game, that's like, obviously aesthetic and story does matter, but it's like the gameplay is how you interact with the game, so I feel like that makes sense. Is like, yeah, bosses and levels and stuff. Because I guess I generally like the bosses. I will say, a couple of them towards the end got a little overwhelming to me, I think. And not that Elden Ring doesn't have that same issue. The difference between Elden Ring and Lies of P in that way is that in Elden Ring you always have the option to summon because you have the bell.
Right.
Like you can summon the Mimic Tier or the whatever really good summon. So like when you get those later end game bosses that just like overwhelm the fuck out of you, you can use that to make up the difference and have a little easier time. Where because that said, I generally don't use summons unless I feel like I have to. So in Elden Ring, I did use it quite a lot because it was so easy. Especially in Lies of P, I only used it for. It was basically the end game bosses. So Laxia, the lady,
Dude, oh.
Simon, and I would have used it for the nameless puppet, but you can't.
Can I be honest? I love that you can't use it for the puppet because it made the puppet fight a fucking struggle. But that's my favorite fight in the game, like by far.
Okay. And the other one is that I used it much earlier is the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. I just I kind of never loved the NPC
like the gang fights. Really,
yeah, because it's like I do like the one in Bloodborne, I think, a little bit with the 3 snake people, because I like the way that fight's dynamic and how as you kill each of them, the others get stronger. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I like that aspect of it, and also they're pretty slow and they're more manageable. I felt like compared to the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, or maybe I was just impatient with them, but like trying to fight them alone, I made zero progress without the spirit. So, and even with the spirit, it's not like it's not an instant win button by any means. It never has been, but. Yeah, and then Laxia was just
Laxia is such a cool fight, though. Oh.
Yeah, she's cool, but it's also like I think what maybe again boomer moment speaking is just like because they have attacks that are so fucking fast. Because in my brain I react to them. They attack, I hit button, but they go so fast. You have to preempt it.
There's an animation tell actually. I will say when it comes to those fights, the Nameless Puppet's the one that really got me because I didn't have a thing. I was watching him so closely. There's a tell. It's just in different parts. Like for Nameless Puppet, it's like the wrists a lot of time. Like you'll see his wrist twitch, and then he comes down.
I was focused on the yellow light on his eyes for his onigiri
there's
attack.
That too.
But I couldn't quite. I got better at it, but I would not say I had it down by the time that I beat him. With Laxia, I just kind of used the spirit, so it I didn't master her by any means. Maybe the first phase, but not the second phase, which is just like again a little overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
I think, but I was able to beat the Nameless Puppet in spite of that, right? So. Because I have heard that like your action time and step dulls as you get older, and I am a 33-year-old man, so that's my cope, that's my copium, my excuse as to why I found parts of this game. But even then, that said, it's the Nameless Puppet still took me less time than like the Owl in Sekiro, the Owl 2 fight in Sekiro or whatever. Because so it's like it's not even the most I've struggled with a boss in one of these kinds of games, but I don't know. I feel like I sweat quite a bit though. Like it was rough. It was a rough fight, and yeah, it's a good fight for sure. Yeah. Well, how about you? Do you have any more specific thoughts on the bosses?
Yeah. Well, so I was gonna say I think the animations on a lot of them are like really really pristine. Nameless Puppet especially was one where I started watching like his wrists and his elbows to get all my my parries, and it was like crazy good for that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. All right.
And then I think Simon Manus is kind of good. I think Laxia is like Laxia would fit right in like the final half. Not even the final half. Like as a final like 3 boss in Dark Souls 3, I think. And I love it.
Okay.
Like like if like right after Dragon Slayer armor, you just have to go fight Laxia. Fits in perfectly.
Yeah.
Love it.
I was gonna say because definitely the end game bosses like Manus, Simon doesn't stand out as much. I'd say for sure. Except I think his form transition cutscene is probably
sick.
The hardest.
It's so fucking cool.
Holy fuck! Like I lost my fucking mind when that happened because it's like oh my god, it's Adam and God. What the fuck? That's like that iconic painting, and it's like holy shit. And that like I don't like because it's like when. I haven't played all the From Soft games in a while, so because I know I feel like like phase twos didn't used to be a regular thing. Like I don't think there were that many in Dark Souls 1. For example, I can't think of any right now. Like they have like, like the Four Kings or the Gargoyles where there is like a second part to the fight, but it's not like they get not like compared like in Elden Ring with Millennia where it's like you beat the first phase and the second phase
I think
happens,
those
right?
I could be wrong. There could be one in Dark Souls 2. I feel like those started in 3.
Right, but like thinking back, like I only played Dark Souls. I guess I played Dark Souls 1 way more than I played 2 and 3, so I have much more better memory of Dark Souls 1. Maybe did Bloodborne do a lot of those?
Oh, Bloodborne is Lady Maria doesn't have 2. Does Orphan? No.
No, Orphan doesn't.
I don't think Bloodborne does. I think Abyss Watchers is the first boss that does it.
No, actually, maybe the final Gurman, the Moonwatcher.
Oh,
The true final boss, I guess, because it's first the first hunter, and then you kill him, and then it's Moonwatcher.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, because you fight, but no, because I think if you die on it, you don't have to fight Gurnam again.
Oh, never mind. That's different. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. So that's me grappling but I'd say it's like I think. Yeah, Simon Manus fucking very much stands out even in that regard because it's not just like a wild and cool scene transition. It's also like really meaningful to the story and character stuff, and it's just like holy shit, like I was not fucking prepared, and it was like so yeah, it was really fucking cool.
The only other boss I can think of that I think is like worth mentioning for any reason is I fucking hate the green monster of the swamp, and that boss sucks.
Thank you. Oh my god! Like I didn't use the spirit for him, but I was definitely I did not like him very much at all. I'm so glad you mentioned it because that's the only other boss I had.
Oh, and Romeo and King of Puppets is fucking great boss.
Oh my god! Holy shit! I mean, the fight was really good, but mostly that's another scene transition or a phase transition one where it's like. Because it's like so first you get when you start the fight you get the little play where you have Geppetto taking what looks like your heart out and putting it into another puppet.
Right, he shows you what is potentially the bad ending. Right, if you stay a puppet.
That's what I thought was loved about how it was because first I was like, what the fuck is that? Then Romeo comes out and it's like, oh my god, it wasn't about you, it's about him. He took Romeo's heart out and gave it to you, right? But then, yeah, it's actually a warning to you because of the bad ending. So it's like there's like it's. I don't know. It was like really interesting to see that journey of just like, oh fuck. Oh god, Romeo's last message. Where he's just like, I tried to send you my messengers, but they, you're sure unstoppable. Like he's like a good big brother who's pushed against you because it's like, that was the only path he could take. And Romeo's good. Cool puppet man. Yeah. And yeah, you were talking about the level design earlier when we were chatting before. What did you want to?
I think that the game commits really hard to the level design being extremely linear with checkpoints.
Yes.
I don't think that's a problem. I think that, especially in like a world post Elden Ring, where there's kind of I think the worry that. Souls games might continue to get bigger and bigger and more open like that. I think having one that is, kind of the equivalent of like a hallway shooter, like a Wolfenstein, like a new modern Wolfenstein game, where like you're just kind of walking forward and fighting what's in front of you. And there are some, beaten paths you can take. But for the most part, that's like for collectibles. And it's pretty much just you walk forward, you fight the enemies in front of you. You find the checkpoint, you walk forward, you fight the enemies in front of you, you find a checkpoint.
Yes. Or a shortcut, because this game is really good about like looping you back around and reusing the same bonfires or, stargazers rather. But just like they as I was talking about before, it's like I think it was Anderson, right? Yeah, who was talking about how it's like that was probably an accident in a sense. Or I think from a design perspective, it's probably easier for a level designer to just build forward, basically, without having to think about looping around, which is probably why From Soft has gone that direction. Because I imagine it's probably like more difficult to imagine, like, because you're not just imagining the level, but also just the space and just, to have it loop back around. But it's really cool and satisfying to have that, and I do really like that. So it's really cool that they recognize that, and they like this is something that they're doing that From Soft kind of they've done, but they aren't regularly doing it to like this.
Yeah,
right?
I will say I don't get the sense with that game as much that like you're in a world I think the looping back and that sense is way more there for levels than like the game world as a whole. even though you do loop back once, it does steal, in my opinion, like most of the, in terms of like moving through the world, reminds me more of Dark Souls 3, where it is just a lot of like, you kind of walk forward until you reach the end. As opposed to like Dark Souls 1, where like that game is way more, like you are an adventurer in a world and you have to go where your objective means as you build this map of the landscape in your head,
Yeah, for sure. Because I will say, as far as level design goes, I guess one area I feel like and it makes sense because it's not a fantasy game. Because I feel like Bloodborne is relatively similar, but like there's like, because I was just thinking about how like Elden Ring has like those tombs with those big ass fucking roller things that just hate you and are evil. You know the ones I'm talking about. They roll up and down the slopes and stuff. I was just thinking about how it's like, I feel like as far as like just traps and environment wise, like lots of enemies, lots of good enemies. But relatively little. Like there's some pressure traps towards the end of the game. There's some bear traps in a couple of areas. Like there's definitely some rolling boulders and stuff. But I just remember feeling like thinking about it after, and it's like, it wasn't as strongly emphasized in that way as I feel there. And again, I feel like that's also partly a limit of the setting, because it's like they can't just put mimics there, right? It's fucking. It takes place in like it's more of a sci-fi almost. There's definitely magic shit going on, but like with the robots and stuff, it's like, there's a groundedness to the setting that they can't just do a lot of the, the fantasy stuff that you can get away with in the From Soft games, I guess. So, but I think it's not an issue, obviously, because I still really like this game. I was just thinking about like, oh yeah, I guess that's one area that it's not quite as memorable in, I suppose. And they still do, like, I don't know, like that's the thing. It's like there's transferable skills from the other FromSoft games, because I remember like seeing an item and it's like, oh, there's an enemy around this corner, isn't it? And I check and it's like, yep, there's a to attack you if you try to get the item, and it's like, yep, seen that a million times.
Yeah, they definitely like to use a lot of the same tricks. Which is
one
nice.
of them did get me in the last going up to Simon. There was one item and there's a guy who pushes you off the ledge. That guy got me.
Yeah. Well, and it's even built the same way that I think modern FromSoft games are, where it expects you to kind of have, and not that you need it, but it does kind of expect some level of skill with the genre from outside of it, And I think a lot of that's in like enemies having the really delayed attacks,
God,
because like that started in like, I feel like, there were enemies with it before, but like the first one I remember that like really really punishes you for that was like Pontiff, and I was like, after that everything's like, yeah, now we're gonna have delays, we're gonna have double delays, we're gonna have normal attacks, and you gotta be ready for like all the timings, and
yes.
Lies of Peace totally on that as well. Like it's going to try to trick you up and fuck with you.
God, the green puppy-deated monster has shit like that. Because he has like the one of his big, where he gets on his hind legs and like slams, like punches down, and he has like 3 different timings for it, and like the slowest one is also the red attack one, and it's like, you piece of shit. So yeah. All
right, do you want to talk about the story a little bit?
Yeah, but real quick, because I got the bad ending, and I got the Rise of P ending, which I guess is the true ending.
Yeah, I only got the true ending, so I only got
the true ending. Okay.
Say no to Geppetto and fight the
nameless
puppet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did back up my save, because I was hoping to get more achievements than I did, but I have to replay the game anyway, so there was no point in it aside from getting cutscenes, I guess. But I mean, it was still nice to. Because where do we start with the story though? Because it's like there's a lot of cool things.
I love that it's, and I guess I like that it's a flip on Pinocchio, because I mean we've both read the the Italian book, and like that's very much just a lighthearted, serialized story trying to get Italian boys to listen to their fathers and not lie.
Yes.
And so it's all just kind of, this is a good thing, a moral you should have. Don't have a moral failing. Don't be lazy. Don't tell lies. Don't not go to school. Don't think you're above learning. Things like that.
Yes.
And Lies of P flips that, and instead, like, the entire point of the game becomes, you, like, first of all, to become human in the game, which is like a mechanic that happens where your hair will go gray and Pinocchio will start to talk more as you become human. The way to do that is through lying. So the game is automatically taking the opposite stance of the original book, where the original book says, you can become a real boy, a man, through having these virtues. Pinocchio instead says that the way you become a human from a machine, from a puppet, is through lying and through killing and through these kind of nasty, ugly things. But that's what defines your humanity, is the ability to resist and to say no, right? And that the game kind of starts with this puppet uprising where all the puppets have kind of turned against people. But even still, the puppets can't lie. And so that's what makes Pinocchio special off-rip, is that he's a puppet that can lie. And through lying more and more, he grows a heart and he finds his humanity. And I think that's like just a really cool inversion both of Pinocchio, and it says it actually is doing it to say something about like humanity and creations.
The fucking scene where you kill Alidoro, like, was because he's like, haha, you can't kill me because unless we're violent against you, you can't attack us. And then it's like you just hit attack, but you are able to because he's a traitorous piece of shit who sold out the hotel. And I was just like, yeah, because because you've become human enough that he broke free of that restriction that was placed on him, and it's just like it was just a cool moment of just like, yeah, he's become, like, God, the fucking riddle. It's like, are you a killer? And it's like, yes. And it's like, yep. And of course the King of Riddles was the whole.
Dude, I'm so proud. Without looking it up, I completed that side quest line my first playthrough.
Fuck yeah,
like
same.
I didn't look up a single riddle, and I didn't look up a single location, and I was able to see the end of it, and I was so happy.
Yeah, I didn't get the achievement for finding all the Trinity doors, but I did, all the rewards, I think, because I didn't go out of my way for that. But I did meet the King of Riddles, so that's I don't know, because like there was the because he's the first puppet murderer, so it's just a neat little lore thing. And of course, like the way he was like, oh, what if I made a puppet of a human, because he was using Sophia's power. And manipulate, like, yeah. So I don't know, just of course I'm gonna like the game. I just I like human robot kind of conflicts. VV Floret Ice Song. It kind of comes up in Sword Art Online with the artificial flux lights, and Violet Evergarden. She is a human, but she wasn't like allowed to be a human, so her story is about finding her humanity. Like, I love those kind of stories, and this is that. And it's like I love the robot, like Pluto, the robot human conflicts. Which, by the way, that's the Arlecchino is a Pluto reference, as I shared with Vindy. But it's so it's like, of course I'm gonna love that shit. Like, I don't know if there's like an end or a reward for that, because there's the one puppet who you find in the swamp, who is like he wants you to teach him emotions, right? And I don't know, just like I just felt bad because he's like because the way he taught, like like what did he say? He said something about how it's like. Or what? I'm
just getting triggered because you're saying all this. You're like, oh, I like the robot versus human and emotions. And it's like, but you hate Nier Automata.
I don't like the game, the playing of it. I like the ideas.
Well, fair enough. I'll give it to you then.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's like he's, because, like, what did I write? It's like humans hate puppets because they hate puppets they cannot control, but only puppets without the covenant are like they're like, because that puppet who's ruined and just sitting there in the swamp, he wants to be friends with humans. Like he wants to learn these emotions so that he can get closer to humans, right? And we see, especially at the hotel, there's Vanini's puppet and the lady's puppet, who are just like they really care for their masters basically, and they very much have emotions and love even as a puppet, right? Because like they talk about like the that sometimes puppets ergo develop individuality, and because like they also, I think they mentioned that ergo is basically like the souls of humanity, and or something like that, or that's how I wrote it down. Maybe I misread that. Because like, and they also talk about how the golden tree fruit is, I believe they frame it's the tears of those wishing to create miracles for the present, is how I like. So which I was thinking was interesting because a lot of the narrative is Geppetto lost his son Carlo and has been doing all of this so that he can create Carlo again, so that he can make a human out of a puppet. Because and he's literally trying to get your heart so that like, oh my God, when he pulls out the fucking corpse and it's like, it's fucking Carlo, you're a puppet who's becoming a human, and the final boss is a human who's been turned into a puppet, right? And it's like, that's so fucking cool. But mostly I was thinking about that, how that ties like thematically to the golden tree fruit, is because like if the golden tree fruit is people who are gone wanting what is best for the present, wanting miracles to happen in the present, then it's like, well, you could say that, but yeah, well, Carlo doesn't want his dad to be suffering like this, right? But
Right.
you know, Geppetto's the one in control. He's the father. He's literally the one holding the strings, right?
Right.
You know, and I even the fact that what is the nameless puppet's weapon? It's scissors, right? To cut the strings, but he's not able to do that. He only fights you, right? So I don't know, just so many details and so much good little shit.
Yeah, and there's even different ways. You kind of framing it like that put me as like a different way to even look into it, where, you know, if you didn't even want to look at it as just like a story about finding humanity, if you wanted to look at it as just like a coming of age story almost, right? Whereas the idea of a boy going from a boy to a man, you have to do that, you know, in some ways by, you know, breaking out of the you know, cutting away the strings of you know, your father or your parents who have control over you, you know. I don't think personally that's necessarily exactly what it's doing, but I think that's, you know, a way you could look at it and see, you know.
Yeah, I think specifically it's like the controlling father figure. Like, actually, wait, what is this game like? What country does the
Korean,
developer come
South
from?
Korean.
Okay, gotcha. Because it very much has similar like it's similar to a lot of Japanese stuff in the way it handles like God and religion, because it very much uses that more Gnostic, like the father is a manipulator who needs to be overcome,
Right.
rather than that Christian, like God loves you and means the best for you, even if it doesn't always seem that way.
Yeah.
Right. Because like that they very much lean into, because that, you know, obviously with especially Simon also being a controlling father figure, but for Sophia instead of, you know, Pinocchio. Right, and like the fact, like, you know, he's literally the one trying to become a god because he wants to create a world of only truth where there is no lie, where everyone's hearts are bare, right? You know, and that's his ideal, but it doesn't work out for him, you know. But yeah, I just like some of the ways the symbolism is used is really cool. Like, I also like, because I think, you know, we see the petrification disease. Like, I think the first carcass you see is actually like stuck against a wall, turned into a tree partly. And I think they even mentioned the golden tree fruit is also formerly a person, I believe, right? And I know because it's, and then of course Simon, he has wood as part of his design as well. Like the tree roots open up and you see the god child in there that touches the hand of God, which was so insane. And I was thinking about how it's like, oh, so it's in becoming more like a god, you also become more like your wood, which is like, well, that's what puppets are made out of. So it's like there's like a circle thing going there of just like, because again, I always think about the idea of like, man is made in imitation of God, and God is a creator, therefore man can also create. And you know, so it's like, you know, like so Simon is trying to become a god, and Geppetto, like, yeah, so you know, that like even I think the way Pinocchio, he performs on the piano, right? He's able to create art in a sense, right? So it's like that's his way of becoming God in a not Simon Manus way. I guess. I don't know. Do you have any neat observations to make that we haven't talked about yet? Because I'm just I'm just like spilling out all these little neat details. But
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know if I have much else. Well, I mean, obviously I do, but I don't know what. Let me think. Okay. Well, I do want to mention really quickly. The music is like dynamic, and so it changes. As you like get into combat and with what's going on in the game, but there's like always kind of music going on, and it's good. I don't pay super attention to it in the game because I'm kind of focused on everything else. But you know, I think the dynamic music system is cool and does deserve being mentioned. If that's something that maybe someone would be interested in and it would get them to try the game, then it's worth mentioning, I guess, because I think the game is crazy.
Yeah. So did you notice that when you get the painting of Carlo, Geppetto puts it across from the seat that you are sitting in when you modify your P organ? Which I thought was...
I didn't actually.
Yeah, so what I took that as is like when you are modifying yourself, in front of you is like ultimately the purpose of your existence, like what Geppetto wants you to be, right? Like,
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought like as if to remind you how you should construct yourself, right?
Right,
So
almost
realized,
like looking in a mirror, but it's not. Right, he wants you to see it as looking in a mirror.
But then, oh god, that when Pinocchio's hair grows out and you're walking away, and Geppetto's like, he's changing and I can't predict how he's changing. Like he's like freaking out a little bit because Pinocchio's exceeding its expectations. Well, he's breaking the strings.
Yeah, and I love that. And so that's, and that's part of becoming human is your hair grows and it turns white and it's, you start speaking up for it very much is that rebelling is finding your humanity,
yes.
Which is it is just so cool.
And
I just love that it's told mechanically, right? So like to get the information, you have to be, or to get the ending, you have to be lying. You have to be like doing things that, if you're playing the game, you're like, I'm going to be Pinocchio and I'm going to be a real boy. You like wouldn't, you know what I mean? And like obviously the game does kind of tell you that right away by being called Lies of P and making you lie to even like kind of enter the hotel at the start.
Yes.
But you could do that and then, you could see someone thinking, well, like I can't lie and not lying the whole game, which,
might not go well for you. Well, actually, so I did do that. And have you seen that ending? The bad ending?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so basically what happens is like, Geppetto takes out your heart, and you see a hand come out of the case that he has, a fleshy red hand, or like not red, but like human flesh colored hand, not like the carcass that we see. Then it cuts to the hotel. Carlo comes out looking basically like Pinocchio did at the start of the game. Like even with shorter hair and stuff, and he's got blood on him, and he smiles, and because basically the family that Geppetto wanted, because he even says like we can go back to being a family. Like he's not talking about the found family you got at the hotel. He has you kill all of them. He has Pinocchio kill or Carlo kill all of them. And what's interesting is if you do the because you have the option to cancel and not do the new game plus and go back to the game at the end and just so you now look like Carlo, like Pinocchio did at the beginning of the game. And everyone in the hotel has been replaced by puppets who call you their lord, and it's fucking creepy and terrifying. Because you killed them all, but mechanically they still want you to be able to have like the blacksmith and the shopkeepers and stuff. But it's like even the puppets were killed and replaced with more generic and lifeless puppets. So it's just like very good, just good little detail for the bad ending, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then the just I don't know. I do like when Pinocchio cries for Geppetto and he's like, "I'm sorry, son." Like he does accept him as his son, but just too late. Good moment in that cutscene.
One thing I love, by the way, is that like because we mentioned how you can't summon in that boss. I do love though that as like almost an accessibility thing in case you're there and want to still finish the game by any means. If you can't beat that boss and cut the strings of a puppet to fully sever your own strings, the game lets you quit. It lets you get an ending.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I actually think that is such a cool thing that the entire time, anytime you sit at that rest stop or you decide to maybe like look at your bills or something, the game's like, hey, you want to just give up? You can just give up right now. And I think that's like really
Geppetto
cool.
Rip out your heart.
Yeah.
Well, that's because that like just the fact that. Because, I love the idea in the Souls games of, like, your character only dies and becomes a hollow when you, as a player, give up, right? Like, when you stop. And so that's like that, but, like, for, you give up on beating the nameless puppet, so, just give Geppetto the heart, Damn, that's pretty good.
It's just, and it was, like, a silly thing, and it also, like, personally, it pissed me off. So like, fuck you, I'm not gonna give up. I'm at the end of the game.
You've unlocked easy mode. Would you like to switch?
I made it all the way here. You think I'm gonna give up on this fucking boss just because he's hard? No, I'm gonna fucking smash my head to his brick wall till I'm bloody, bleeding, and I get through.
Yeah, I think. And yeah, of course, the ending of like the where Pinocchio gives up his life to save Sophia is good. She becomes a puppet, and then he brings her to life with his own life. Because I thought it was at first. I thought it was a little ambiguous as to whether P dies or not. But then I realized that the pose therein is a reference to the Pieta, the famous statue of Mary holding Jesus after he's pulled from the cross, and it's like, oh, yeah, he's fucking dead. Good game. I still haven't gotten there's a third ending because the endings are based on, do you have enough humanity to reject or accept to reject giving Geppetto the heart, and do you kill Sophia or not? and because there's one more.
that-
If you keep her alive, there's a third. There's a
Oh,
different ending when
okay.
you reject that Geppetto. That's so basically it's like so yeah. You get the bad ending no matter what you do to Sophia. If you give Geppetto the heart, and then the other ending depends on whether you spared her life or gave her peace, or gave her peace or let her live. Right? Yeah. So yeah, and then yeah, I think that about covers what I have to say about the story, except for the fucking, as I've said to you multiple times, sorry to repeat myself, but this is for the audience, MCU ass stinger they give, where they have, like, Paracelsus, who is actually, like, not a fuckboy, but he's actually, like, some fucking pulp secret agent dude in all this shit with immortals, and, with some cryptic language, I guess, imply like accepting the new existence, and they mentioned like getting the arm back, which I assumed by Simon Manus's arm. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're looking for Dorothy, and then it cuts to a pair of red-heeled shoes walking, and she clacks her heels together 3 times, and I'm like, you sons of fucking bitches. Are you kidding me? So Wizard of Oz Souls is gonna go hard, I guess.
Yeah, so I was waiting to talk about this with you a little bit till here. I was talking to a friend about it, and I think what I'm so excited about for the idea of the Lies of O, or whatever they want to do with it, however they want to frame it, is that I think more than, like, they might do just dark fantasy, like Wizard of Oz, which, okay, whatever, it would just, like, kind of look like Dark Souls. But I really hope, especially because I do think Lies of P is a really pretty game a lot of the time, even though it is dark, like, especially the character models look so fucking good, make it colorful and bright. I want to be murdering munchkins in the most colorful fucking environment I've ever seen in the first level of that next game. Like, please.
I wonder how many, because I'm only familiar with the film. But it's very clear that like with I guess we'll talk about the references next. I guess a little bit if we maybe a little bit more, but I already kind of did. But like I was just thinking about how it's like because they very clearly drew from not only the original novel, but the Disney adaptation and also Pluto. And I was asking you earlier because I was wondering because like there's the whole trope of the idea of Geppetto creating Pinocchio out of like grief, right? Because he lost which happens in the Del Toro movie, it happens in Lies of P, and I was noting how it's like, well, like when does this, because that wasn't a thing in the original novel, right? I don't think. Right?
I don't think. No, I think he just made a puppet. It might have been because he had a kid die, but
I think someone else found the piece of wood and gave it to Geppetto, and he turned it into a puppet. Like it's not even that he just made Pinocchio, right? So that's how I remember it in the book.
That's how I remember it too.
In the Disney movie, he just made Pinocchio, and it was just gifted life, right? And became Pinocchio. So I was just wondering where that, because it's just like it happens in these 2 adaptations of Pinocchio that came out like literally within like a year of each other, right? So or maybe within 2 years of each other, or a year and a half rather. But because I'm pretty sure the Del Toro one was 2022 and the Lies of P was 2023, right? Maybe my number's wrong, but anyway, relatively close to each other. Because I was just wondering where this trope comes from, and I did think about Astro Boy, Adam, because there's a Pluto reference in there, which is obviously Naoki Urasawa's take on Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy, and it wouldn't surprise me that Astro Boy is inspired by Pinocchio, but it's not an adaptation. Like it doesn't have the same character. It has the very like base idea of a man making a artificial boy. Right, and that's about the only, because it's not about Astro Boy becoming a real boy. That's not a part of the story. But it does have that like because Dr. Tenma loses his son and makes Adam to replace his son and is dissatisfied with the result and abandons him basically. That's the origin story for Astro Boy, and then he's sold to a circus and picked up by another scientist, and that's his backstory. Right, so it's like that's in some ways more similar to Pinocchio's backstory in Lies of P and the Del Toro one than it is to the actual book, right? So I'm just wondering like where, because I recognize from Astro Boy, I'm just wondering where that trope sort of comes from in relation to Pinocchio. Not just maybe someone here in the comments listening to this happens to know, but I would be interested because it's like it really works, like because I love it in Lies of P and I expect I'll love it in the Del Toro Pinocchio, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm gonna. Because I'm also kind of curious as to what other specific adaptations or influences it has that we haven't. Because you talked about the how it draws them from the different FromSoft games like Sekiro and Dark Souls 3. And like, I mentioned Monas, like Simon Monas, also being named from the boss from Dark Souls 1, where it's like, in that game, he's like the pinnacle of humanity because when you kill him, you get a really big humanity soul. He's at the depths of the abyss. He's more monkey-like, which kind of gives the primates and stuff. He also has giant hands, so there's a design similarity between Simon Menace, but he's also like the alchemists. They're all about like evolution, like Victor. He was talking about how it's like humanity needs to evolve or whatever, and so Simon Menace is an alchemist, but he's also becomes closer to God, right?
Right.
So
yeah, he's at the top of a tower instead of the bottom of the abyss. Yeah.
Yes, so it's like it's just that taking these references and transforming them in a way that is very fitting to the Lies of P while still very clearly being a reference as well. Like we don't see Simon Manus and go, this has nothing to do with the Dark Souls guy also called Manus. Like there's too many, like the fact that the King of Riddles is just Brow 1589. Like he's just the first puppet killer strung up to a wall and trapped in a place with the weapon that. Like a weapon stabbed into his chest. Like there's no fucking dodging that. It's right. A Pluto reference.
Yeah, and it's so cool because it takes all this, from all these sources, and it really, kind of melds it together. And it takes a little bit from this and a little bit from this, and it even is reflected in the gameplay, right? Where with the weapon system and
yes,
even how So it's just a cool and the arm system, and it's just a cool game.
Yeah, no, I got a lot out of it. I think currently on my backlogged, I have a list on my backlog which is like just my favorite games, and I just rank every game that I have above a 9 out of 10 there, and currently it's in my top 10. I imagine that will change when I replay more games, but it ranks among the best Souls games. Like it's really fucking good. It deserves the attention that it's getting, very much so.
Yeah, I mean, it's been climbing up my favorite games of last year for sure, and it's like in the top 3. So
nice. And yeah, it's very excited for the DLC. Very excited for the Lies of Oz, Lies of O, Lies of D. Don't do Lies of D. But
why not? Yeah. You already had the P organ. Might as well do Lies of D. Give me the D organ.
Give me the D. All right. Do you have any final thoughts or anything that you forgot to mention?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay. I think that was a faster discussion because we talked about it a little bit earlier, so we're just rehashing some of the things we said, and you've been thinking about this game for a while, so it makes sense that you've had all these thoughts that you're like, I know exactly what I want to say.
Yeah, like it's a lot more like crystallized. I don't feel like I need to like kind of talk around my point because I know what I think at this point with the game I think is interesting. So
yeah. No, thank you for the recommendation, and it was definitely worth checking out. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening, everybody. We will see you next time. Have a good one.